Man, look at all these D&D shills, man. Every last one of them talking about the new classes and junk. I guess they forgot how mad they were at the OGL fiasco. You know, you could just not watch it if you don't like it. But I have to hit the dislike button and tell them what a shill they are so they know. Actually, all that counts as engagement and helps the video even if it's negative. If you don't like the content, the best thing you can do is not watch it because that tells both the algorithm and the YouTuber that you're not interested. And if enough people show that they aren't interested, then that person won't make that content because they won't be getting any views. Hello and welcome back to A Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about character reactions, and as you saw earlier, poor Billy back there had a bit of a strong one. Also, I know I've been on a TTRPG spree of late because, believe it or not, even after a year and a half of this or more, I am still trying to figure out what I actually do around here. Is it writing in TTRPGs? Is it mostly TTRPGs? Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. But today's video is more on the writing front, so for those of you that subscribe for writing talks, today is your lucky day. As for the TTRPG players, don't worry, there's still some stuff for you too. And with that said,
hold on to your butts.
That's the big question for the day, and the answer is because it tells us an awful lot about your character, it makes it more immersive, it makes it more believable, and probably a slew of other things I can't think of at the moment. Similar to the character introductions video where we talked about how important those first few seconds with a new character were, a character's reaction also impacts your story being told and the characters you're trying to build. A good reaction, or a bad one, really, can be worth 1,000 words in just a couple seconds, and that can either really make the story or scene that you're going for, or completely undo it and confuse the audience. In my own little squirrely opinion, I do feel like cinema and graphic novels have the advantage here over a written story. Especially with a good actor or a good artist, you can portray some really strong emotions in just a couple seconds or a single panel without saying a single word. That's otherwise much harder to do in a written story without completely destroying the flow of the story. But character reactions are something I find extremely problematic in a lot of modern cinema, and maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean is somewhat to blame for that. It was a great movie at the time, and still is, but Disney has just doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on the Jack Sparrow approach and having every character treat every situation like a joke. I'm not saying everything has to be dark and gritty and miserable, but you know, maybe don't get so excited and say, woo, when you blow up a bunch of cop cars and most likely kill a few officers when you're supposed to be one of the heroes of the story. Just a little food for thought, that's all. And of course, obligatory squirrel disclaimer before we get started. I am not your dad. You're free to write however you want. This video is mostly meant for entertainment, but it does contain some tidbits of advice that I find useful. If it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, here's hoping you at least enjoyed the ride. Now, let's dig into some examples and see what we can learn. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be modern and with the times and use something super recent, so buckle up, boyos, because I'm about to rustle some jimmies. Though I will admit, I haven't actually watched the show myself because I do treasure what few brain cells I have left, but I have been watching some other YouTubers talk about it and break it down, so I think I have enough to go on here. If there's something that I miss or leave out that otherwise would explain the issues I'm about to cover, feel free to bring it up in the comments below. And if you haven't seen the show yourself, you're much better off having not done so, but consider this your spoiler warning in case you hate yourself and were planning on watching it. Now, let me bring you up to speed as quick as I can so you can appreciate just how bad this character's reaction is. The character in question is the main character of the show, and her name is OSHA. And yes, you heard me right, OSHA, as in the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You cannot make this up. Nobody, not one single person apparently, during the creation of the show, thought that that was a dumb idea. Anyway, OSHA is a fan of the Jedi. She believes in them, she trusts them, and even has spent time training with them, but eventually was let go because she couldn't properly control her emotions. She couldn't let go of some anger and grief, remember that, because it'll be on a test later. Funnily enough, she had no hard feelings against them about this. No grudge, no outbursts, or at least none that we saw. She just went on living her life and is actually happy to see one of those said Jedi she worked with show up in the first episode. And then there's this little Jedi in training named Jeki, who she becomes friends with as the show progresses. We don't really see that friendship develop because this is Disney. It's just kind of there suddenly and then it's not. But it's also said to have been more than friends, so who knows? Not the writer, that's for sure. And that brings us to the villain of the story. Wait a minute, that's the writer, my bad. This is the villain of the story. And I thought about calling him Discount Vader or Bargain Bin Vader and a few other things, but I think I'm just going to go with Edgelord. Anyway, long story short, Osha sees a lot of this herself, and what she doesn't see, she still knows happened. Edgelord kidnaps her, brings her back to his hideout, and when she wakes up later and finds him out taking a little bit of a dip in the water, what does she do? Does she scream in rage? Does she dive in head first and swing like a maniac? Does she burst into tears? Remember, this is the lady who the Jedi said couldn't properly control her emotions. This is the test that I told you about. It's key. And her choice of action is... Okay, look, I try to be fairly family friendly on this stuff. I censor myself. I try to watch what I say, but there's just no way around it this time. I'm sorry, she's looking at his dick. This man just killed her friends and a slew of other Jedi she had respect, appreciation, and admiration for, kidnapped her, took her to who knows where to do who knows what, and she stops to check out his other lightsaber. And I promise you, I'm not making this up. I didn't do any editing or no trickery like that. This is just bad high school grade fan fiction because, yes, these two end up like this by the end of it. And it's not particularly a long journey to get there. She gets comfortable with him frighteningly quick, considering how many of her friends he just killed. And to be honest, I really didn't want to use this example at first because it's just so bad that I don't even know where to begin with it. I am legitimately stumped. What were you thinking, Leslie? What was going on in that big square head of yours?
So,
Look, let me make it simple for you, Leslie. Let's take Billy the Wizard here and Fred the Barbarian, two characters you know absolutely nothing about. Let's say these two are out on an adventure and Fred dies. Blech! If Billy reacts like this, well, crap, we can assume they weren't very close. If Billy reacts like this, then we can assume they had a closer bond. Oh, Lord, they got Fred. Oh, God, they didn't even have a chance to like and subscribe. I'm not sorry, not one little bit. But in all seriousness, this makes Osha look like an absolute moron. It also makes her seem incredibly heartless, too, because now it seems like she never really cared about any of those people. And remember how the Jedi said she had some anger issues? Don't you think that maybe, I don't know, those should be coming out right about now? I mean, we do get a little bit of anger a couple minutes after the Peep Show, but again, it instantly devolves into a teenage fanfic. It's just... none of this makes sense, my dude. I don't think anybody in the world, be it ours or a made-up one, would react this way when confronting someone that just mass murdered all their friends. And believable reactions are what's important. That's what can really immerse someone into a story. It doesn't matter if it's in space with laser swords and magic or in a fantasy setting with dragons. Character reactions need to be believable and understandable. And this, all of this mess going on right here, that is none of those things. But what if I told you the same disaster of a show actually had a good example of character reaction in it? Jedi Master Soul, a man who's been around a bit, probably seen some things, has learned the Jedi way, which includes controlling his emotions and all that good stuff, right? In his later years, we see that he's fairly calm for the most part and can handle himself when the script isn't forcing him to do something completely stupid so the thing attempting to be a plot can happen. Soul is there when all the other Jedi get killed by Edgelord, and what is his reaction after the battle is over and he has a moment to himself? I can't believe I'm going to say this about something Star Wars related, but that's good. That's real good, which is a crying shame because absolutely nothing is done with it. But this reaction can tell us a lot. On the surface, this might not look like a lot of emotion, but remember, a Jedi Master is supposed to contain those emotions, and he's struggling to do so. Not only did he lose the fight against Edgelord, he's losing his fight internally too. He's reaching a breaking point, and that's big. And bless the poor guy's heart, he's trying his best to work with what the script gave him. And as I was working on this, I was reminded of that famous scene from Full Metal Alchemist. You know the one. It's a terrible day for Rain. Colonel Mustang is a war-hardened soldier. He's dealt with more than a few deaths and hard times in his career, but here we see him cry. And why? Because at that moment, he is powerless. There's nothing he can do, and he knows it. And I've seen some folks say that this is a parallel to his powers in the show. If I remember correctly, he can use his gloves to snap his fingers, make a spark, and then he can control it and do a bunch of fire stuff. Except for the problem of when it rains, there's nothing he can do. He's powerless, just like he is here. In other words,
it's a terrible day for Rain.
I don't know if that was intentional on the writer's part or was just one of those happy accidents, but either way, it's pretty cool. But the more important part here was Mustang's reaction. Normally, a leader who takes charge, makes decisions, and pushes forward is so trapped and broken that all he can do is cry. It tells us that he has limits, that he can be broken, and just how important his friend was to him. And Hawkeye's reaction is also important. She's confused by the comment at first, but once she realizes what's going on, she plays along with it. It shows us she cares and is willing to let Mustang deal with the grief his way while trying to be there for him. Instead of being like Disney and making a joke every time something serious tries to happen, Hawkeye's reaction adds yet another layer to an already impactful scene and lets us, the audience, feel that emotion instead of taking it away from us with a dumb joke. So just to recap that real quick and give you a side-by-side comparison, experienced military colonel who loses a friend, experienced Jedi Master who loses multiple Jedis on a mission, inexperienced Jedi who supposedly has trouble controlling emotions who loses multiple friends. And this isn't all to say that every single reaction characters make need to be groundbreaking. They just need to make sense and be believable. That's all. Nothing complicated. Now, tabletop time. It might just be my experience in the dorks I play with, but player reactions don't make sense and aren't believable a good 99% of the time, and that's fine, no hate there. I think it just typically happens that way because it's a game, and we're there to have fun, and we're all just unwinding from a hard day of work. However, that can put a GM in a tight spot because they have a world of NPCs that have to react accordingly to their shenanigans. I feel like if the NPCs of the world reacted realistically to even half the things my regular players do, they'd be promptly escorted off the premises or thrown in jail. At the very least, they'd get carted off to a padded cell somewhere. Although, that doesn't mean reactions are completely off the table. You see what I did there? TTRPGs? Off the table? Nah. Love me. Believable reactions are immersive. They make the world feel alive and the people inside of it like real people. If all the NPCs ignore your questionable decisions simply so the game can move forward, it can feel a little unnatural. And for some, that's perfectly okay because it's just a game like I mentioned earlier. For others, they might like something a bit more realistic and serious. I guess that's why we have session zeros and communicate with one another. Who knew? Character reactions are also a great way to drop clues about something, be it an NPC or a player character. And I'll tell you about a time a player of all things actually used a character reaction brilliantly. It was my first campaign, and the party had found a couple of victims of some evil soul magic. Their souls were more or less destroyed, leaving one person feral and the other pretty much brain dead. They were taken to a special religious location where some priests carried them to the other side, as it were, or at least what was left of them. In the party was a rogue, because of course, but what the party didn't know was that this specific rogue had also been affected by some of this evil soul magic. After seeing what happened to those two and fearing that there may never be a cure, a single tear found its way out of the rogue's eye. Which was super out of character in the eyes of the other players. I mean, technically everybody was a little sad at that point because nobody wanted to let those people go, but even then, it was still strange to see the rogue be broken up about it. That reaction of his stuck with them, and it wasn't until much, much later that they finally had that aha moment and put it together. And like many things in life, as well as good writing, consistency is what's important. Character reactions need to be consistent and not flop around, not only because it makes more narrative sense, but also because that could be frustrating to a player. If an NPC is normally helpful to a player, but then suddenly isn't one day with no apparent reason, it can send some mixed signals. Did the GM forget what the character is like? Is the GM having a bad day? Didn't have enough prep time? Or did the player do something wrong? Imagine playing Mario and then suddenly, for no reason whatsoever, you lose half your jump height. So remember, consistency. It's important. And really, that's about all I have for today, so we'll give a shout out to Sovereign. I know he got a shout out in a recent video with a couple others, but he gets a special one today for no particular reason. None at all. Absolutely nothing that I can think of. And that's it. Tell me some of your favorite character reactions in cinema that you've seen and really struck a chord with you. Tell me some of your better character reaction moments in a TTRPG, be it as an NPC or a player. Is Disney ever going to run out of money from consistently making bad shows? Squirrel out!